Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The flock rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. It's officially week 2 of the NFL. It was a crazy, sloppy week across the board, but I'm glad football's back. I just want to kind of do a state of the Ravens, talk a little bit about the division, some things that are going on with the team, some comments that Harbaugh made. We got a lot to talk about, but I just wanted to dive into the current state of the Ravens before we kind of move on to the game preview of the Raiders in a couple days. So we'll start with the AFC North. The Steelers were the only team to get a win, and they didn't even have their starting quarterback. Maybe it's their new starting quarterback. They went with Justin Fields because Russell Wilson's dealing with a calf injury. From what I hear, it's going to be Fields again this Saturday. He didn't look terrible, but I don't know. Let's be real. I don't think Russell Wilson or Justin Fields are about to lead the Steelers to the promised land here. I think that they have a QB issue. And then the Bengals lost to the Patriots, which was definitely surprising. I know T. Higgins was out with a hamstring, and then Jamar Chase really hasn't been there the entire offseason and just kind of shows up week 1. Here, I'm ready. I don't know how committed he is, how much chemistry that they've been able to build just because he hasn't been there at practice. I know he's an insanely talented receiver, but all that plays a role when you're not practicing with the team the entire offseason. Joe Burrow, I thought, looked pretty decent, but losing to the Patriots is a bad loss for them. So we'll see. They got the Chiefs this week, so someone's going down at the top of the AFC. The Bengals are either going to start 0-2 or the Chiefs are going to be 1-1. And then the Browns lost to the Cowboys. The Ravens are going to see the Cowboys after the Raiders, so that'll be a pretty interesting game. They look solid. But the Browns took an L. Deshaun Watson looked terrible. There's a bunch of new sexual assault allegations now coming out. Not from recently happening, but stuff that happened in the past. Again, I guess there's a new lawsuit. I'm not sure of every single detail there. That's definitely not a great look for him or the Browns, and I feel like they're just trying to find a way to get out of that situation. They gave him the worst contract ever, and he's not living up to it at all. I mean, he's just not playing well. He had a hero game against the Ravens last year somehow and beat us and went off, and then he was out for the season. But he did not look great week 1, and they have a really talented team. So we'll see what's going on with the Browns, but the whole division kind of took an L besides Pittsburgh, and I honestly am feeling more confident after watching week 1 than I was when I first watched the Ravens game. There was sloppy play all across the NFL. There were a lot of offenses that did not look good, and I think you're seeing more than ever the preseason. Since no one's playing in the preseason, you're seeing that impact in week 1. The first couple weeks of the regular season are the new preseason, to be honest. It sucks. It really shouldn't be that way because these games do count, but that's just the way it's going to be if starters are not playing in the preseason at all. So after a few days of sitting with that Ravens-Chiefs game, after watching the film and then watching the rest of the NFL play out in week 1, the Ravens are still in a really good spot. Now, we definitely got to get the run game going. The offensive line's a huge part of that. Their run blocking needs to improve. Derrick Henry's usage should go up a little bit. We heard Harbaugh talk about that. I know the fan base is kind of in an uproar, you know, when Harbaugh made a statement saying that we didn't bring Derrick Henry in to run him 30 times a game, and it's kind of going to be a game-by-game thing. I didn't really take that as a negative. I mean, that's just how football is. You don't really ever bring one guy in to just only give him the ball, and, you know, Zay's not that involved, Mark's not that involved, Likely's not that involved, or whatever. You know, you spread it out depending on where the mismatches are, and Derrick Henry's going to have plenty of games. It could be this week where he's the bell cow, he's the main option on offense. Lamar took a lot of that away in week 1. That's really what happened. Lamar had 16 carries, 16 runs. That's a ton, man. Derrick Henry had 13. We don't usually see Lamar run 16 times. And now he's missing practice this week because he's sore from the game because he ran 16 times. And I don't think that that's the formula moving forward. That's just what that game, how that game turned out. And Derrick Henry is going to be involved many times throughout this season where he kind of just goes off and is the main option that day. So I'm not really worried about Harbaugh's comments. I also understand the flip side of it where it's like, you sign a guy like this, use him. You know, Derrick Henry's not going to be here for a long time, maybe not even next year. Who knows? We've kind of got a team option in a way with the way the deal's structured. So we could easily get out of that contract and then this is the only year. But I know there's a goal of preservation, you know, down the stretch of the regular season. When it gets cold, you're going to want to have a strong run game. In the playoffs, you're going to want to have a strong run game. So I think this offensive line is working towards that time. And Derrick Henry's usage in the playoffs is probably going to be a bit more consistent. I think he's still going to have dominant games throughout the regular season. It's just not going to be every single week. Some weeks we're going to be throwing a lot more. Some weeks Lamar might run a lot more. I don't expect that to happen this week just because Lamar just ran 16 times. So I think we may see a bit more Derrick Henry in this game. Just because Lamar's usage is going to go down, which naturally should give a couple more carries to Derrick Henry. So I'm not freaking out about Harbaugh's comment, and I'm also really optimistic about where the Ravens sit right now. We looked good in that second half of the game, especially that fourth quarter, the way the team fought. The Ravens did a lot of good things in that game, and that's a really tough team, man. They're going for a three-peat right now. Like, that's the toughest game we're going to have all season long. I thought we held our own. Do I wish we would have won? Absolutely. Do I wish we would have played better in the first half? Absolutely. But it's just the way it went. And watching the entire league this week in week one, it was a crazy, wild week one, man. Like, no team looked that great. There's no team you can just crown to be in the Super Bowl. Everyone's working towards trying to find the peak of their team, and that probably shouldn't happen until towards the end of the year. Look at last year for the Ravens. Now, I know we were in a new offense, but if you flash back to last year, the Ravens were not really cooking on all cylinders until maybe like that Niners game. I mean, we looked good against Detroit and Seattle a couple times during the season where you could see it starting to heat up. But then we had a game against Jacksonville that we won where we looked all right. And then we went and played the Niners and the Dolphins, and we were just smacking teams. So you want to hit your stride kind of going into the playoffs towards the end of the season, and then you just want to make sure that you're there. So I think the Ravens are definitely a good enough team to make the playoffs and be in that conversation. It's just about keeping their guys healthy and building towards the team that you want to be down the stretch and into the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, at this point, the Ravens only won a Super Bowl, man. There's nothing else that's going to satisfy the fan base, the team, the players. I mean, you need a Super Bowl. And the Ravens are in just as good of a position as they've ever been to get that Super Bowl this season. Nothing has changed. I've actually gained confidence after watching the entire division take an L. I definitely didn't think the Bengals were going to lose to the Patriots. I like where the Ravens are at. Now, if we go out and lose to the Raiders or something this week, then the state of the Ravens next week's going to have a different tone. But at this point, I'm still feeling really good. And I think that I just wanted to kind of share my optimism with you guys. Now, the injury report comes out tomorrow, so we should have a lot more information on what exactly is going on with Lamar. We should get some more information on Kyle Van Noy. I know he has a broken orbital bone, but what's that mean? How long is he out? What's the details of that situation? The injury report should give us a bit more information. Hopefully Lamar Jackson's not even on that thing, but if he is on it for whatever reason, we'll know tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. I'll have a Raiders-Ravens game preview episode out later this week and just talk about whatever else comes up as well. But just wanted to come on here and give a kind of state of the Ravens after week one. I think I'm going to do this at the beginning of the week, every week, just to kind of go over where the Ravens are in the NFL and the division especially. But that's it for today. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.